So welcome to this event on circular manufacturing and welcome to our viewers in Japan and the Netherlands. My name is Ruben Dubelaar. I represent Holland Circular Hotspot, and it's great to host already the second session of a series of events on collaboration between the Netherlands and Japan on circular economy. Please allow me to share a few technical details before we start. For listeners from Japan who prefer to hear the entire webinar in Japanese, you'll see a globe icon in your toolbar for interpretation. If you want to hear the entire webinar in Japanese, please select this language. If you want to hear the speakers who all speak in English, please keep interpretation off and do not choose English, as you will not hear anything on that channel. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A box in your toolbar. For the speakers, I'm the dedicated timekeeper, so if you're running out of time, please allow me to jump in. So last week we took a deep dive into the value chain of plastics, and we had a great discussion on best practices and what's needed to boost circularity in the plastics industry. On the 6th of July, we'll host a roundtable with former ministers and even a former prime minister in the studio in Papendal, which is actually the home base of the Dutch Olympic team. During this roundtable, we'll discuss the outcome of the webinars and how to scale up circular economy solutions, what next steps to take. As Holland Circular Hotspot, we've been working together with the Netherlands embassies and the ministries in the Netherlands to spark the collaboration on circular economy between the Netherlands and Japan. And it's a great opportunity to host this event in the digital expo of the TMNL Tokyo House. A great platform to share best practices and explore further collaboration between the Netherlands and Japan. So today it's all about circular manufacturing. A broad topic, but of course the manufacturing industry is on top of mind when it comes to Japan. And the Netherlands might be small compared to Japan, but there's a lot of knowledge on high-tech systems, and some renowned companies and system suppliers come from the Netherlands. And there's a lot of expertise also on circular economy. So great to team up and to see how we can learn from each other and help each other out. So today we'll see the industry leaders from the Netherlands and Japan, both Panasonic and Phillips. We'll talk about their strategy when it comes to circularity and sustainability. Also, we'll discuss how Bugaboo and Earth Company are working on changing the value chain and new business models for consumers. So together with the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy, we'll wrap up and reflect on this session. But we'll start with Freek van Eijk, Director of Holland Circular Hotspot, who will give an introduction on the topic of circular manufacturing. Freek, please may I invite you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ruben. Good morning, Japan, and good afternoon, Japan. Good morning, the Netherlands. Manufacturing is about making stuff. And I dare to be bold and would like to say that the future is circular for manufacturing. There is already a transformation going on towards climate neutrality. And there is, of course, a continuous drive towards long-term competitiveness. And for that, adaptation to the digital revolution is a must. But also sustainability is a key driver. Remember that making products is probably around a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions. That makes also business sense because there are substantial material savings to be had and value creations to be obtained. Now, I would say that business as usual is not an option. Just think about the pressure on resources. If we continue like the way we're doing towards 2060, the growth and the demand of natural resources will grow by 110%. And that will result in a 43% of increase in greenhouse gas emissions. That's just not manageable. And access to resources tends to be a boardroom discussion. Now, only for the energy transition alone, the critical raw material growth will increase 12-fold. That's impressive. And if I would look at the environmental challenge of the industry, it's actually overwhelming. If we look, for example, at electronic waste, in the next 9 years, it will grow with 38%. And today, only 17.4% is collected and recycled. I would say in today's society, that's not accepted. But there's, of course, hope as well. I think circular economy can provide a way out. Circular economy is about value retention. Now, what's happening when we make products? We combine materials, energy, and creativity, and we create a product with functionality. We create value. It's something like pushing a ball upon a hill. But what typically happens at the end of the life is that this value rolls down the hill and is lost forever. Think about e-waste. But what if we were to retain that value as high as possible on this value hill? That would be great, and we can do that by reusing, by sharing. And if we cannot do that by itself, we have to repair it, refurbish it, or remanufacturing. And in the circular economy, the last thing we want to do is recycling. Why is that? That's because we only return the material value, not the functionality. And actually, circular economy in manufacturing is happening today everywhere in the world. However, it's not enough what's happening today. We need to scale up and scale up urgently. And there are, of course, circular business models and strategies from the beginning of the value chain to the end. Let me mention a few. In practice, it means that designs are aimed at optimal lifespan with the end of life in mind. And products can be kept in circulation as long as possible. And if there's no other option, we can recycle or recover the materials. Now let's go to the fun part. Let's look at some examples. And Dutch design and circular design often go hand in hand. And on your left side, you will see Dutch bed and mattress manufacturer Auping. It's considered to be one of the leaders in circular economy in the Netherlands. The company's goal is to achieve a production process in which every fiber gets reused. Every used mattress will be returned and will be part of a new mattress again. On the right-hand side, we see another international leader. And this time, it's Aernout, a leader in office furniture. They create modular design, allowing components to be removed, replaced, which facilitates reuse and save natural resources. Now, the availability of critical materials is really a serious threat for the European electronics sector, as these materials are not available in Europe. And something similar might count for Japan as well. So on the left, you will see an image from our telecommunication company, KPN. What they have done is that they work together with their value chain to design hardware that reduces risks that come with the use with critical raw materials. So we're talking about workshops in which they discuss product redesign, take-back programs, products as a service.
Sorry, maybe to interrupt you 1 second, because the presentation is stuck on the first opening slide.
That's strange. I see it on my screen. Otherwise, Anke has to step in. On my screen, I continue forward. I'll zoom out.
If you do presentation mode.
I will stop share again. It is in presentation mode. And we share again. That's a pity, guys.
There we are. Now it's good.
Yeah. Okay, let's turn to the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, you see the company Aernout, an international leader in office furniture. We create modular design, allowing components to be removed or replaced, which facilitates reuse and save natural resources. Then we go to the next slide. The availability of critical raw materials is a serious threat for the European electronics sector, as these materials are not available in Europe. On the left-hand side, you see our company, telecommunications company KPN, and they organize workshops with their value chain, with their suppliers on how to counter that risk. So they talk about product redesign, take-back programs, products as a service. On the right-hand side, you see a very nice example from Fairphone, and they started from scratch, from zero, taking responsible and ethical sourcing as a point of departure. And their design is also modular. That means that allows components to be replaced instead of the whole phone. Now, what do you do when the majority of the value of your product is in its materials? Now, manufacturers, and especially the capital equipment, they have strategies which are based around refurbishing or remanufacturing. And on the left-hand side, you see Lely, which manufactures and remanufactures milking robots. The typical lifespan is 10 to 14 years, but by remanufacturing, they extend it with another 5 to 7 years. So currently, already 10% of their robots are pre-owned. On the right-hand side is a well-known example from ASML, an innovation leader in the chip industry. Thanks to their modular design, they're able to upgrade their systems while they're in use in the field. And all their systems are also refurbished, but to produce comparatively less sophisticated chips. But that all taken together all their equipment, which is on the market since 1991, is still in use because of that. Now, let's look at new business models. And one of the new business models is products as a service. You don't sell the product, but you sell the service. And by keeping the ownership, you control the design, you control the maintenance, you control the reuse and the recycling. As such, you control the value of your product. You can extract more value. On the left-hand side, you see a typical Dutch example, which is Swapfiets. And they have more than 220,000 members in 9 European countries. And for a fixed price a month, you have the access to a bicycle, which is pre-designed, that it's easy to repair, to reuse, and be recycled afterwards. On the right, we have a Japanese example from Mitsubishi Elevator. And they have their M-use, that is the offer to use an elevator instead of the ownership of the elevator. So you close a contract based on the performance, and there's no initial payment for the installation. The maintenance costs for Mitsubishi are very low because they use sensors and remote monitoring. And at the end of the lifetime, the customers are offered, let's say, a price for the components, materials in the shaft to allow high-end reuse. Now, there are also strategic sectors like onshore and offshore wind. They play a critical role in the renewable energy transformation in lots of countries. And here we have a Dutch research program, even a European research program for 3 years with the whole value chain light up, more than 50 companies together. The topics they explore are typically circular design, modular design, design for reuse, remote monitoring options, recyclable wind blades, but also things like the ecological foundations of offshore constructions and concepts like building with nature. So creating consortia within an industry like that is key. And we hope we can work on this topic with Japan as well. Now, in order to scale the industry in the Netherlands, we have all kinds of supporting tools to help the industry to make this transformation. Like the resource scanner is a web-based tool to assess and improve the supply chain risks for products and materials. Now, inspired by the building industry, we've created guidelines for circular product passports that you know what's in the product, that you know how to reuse or recover it. We also offer design workshops for manufacturing companies. Now, we hope you like these teasers. If you want to know more, do go to our website and find our latest brochure in which you find more than 20 best practices in 6 high potential sectors which are dealt with. Do stay in touch with us and have fun in this webinar. Back to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Freek, for this kind introduction, good overview. So it's time for the next part, and it's time to welcome both Phillips and Panasonic as speakers in our event. And we'll start with the presentation from Mr. Aizawa of Philips Japan, and then Mr. Markus Reichling of Panasonic. And after these presentations, we'll have a short discussions which will be led by Jackie Hocking. She's also part of the organizing team, entrepreneur and representative of SoNow. But first of all, over to Mr. Aizawa of Philips. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hold on a second. I'm going to share my screen. Very good. Do you see my screen?
Perfectly fine. Yes.
Okay.
You're also.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. I'm Hitoshi Aizawa from Philips Japan, and let me briefly discuss about the environmentally responsible healthcare. We at Philips, as a leading health technology companies, set ambitious target to improve the lives of 2.5 billion people a year by 2030. Making the world healthier and more sustainable through our meaningful innovations. We take our responsibility very seriously for us, and circular economy is a part of our strategy. We think the circular economy provides the great business opportunities as well. So important to realize that we are currently using too many resources. So we are already using the equivalent of 1.7 planets. That's why we need to shift from linear economy to circular economies. And at the Davos 2080s, Franz van Houten, our CEO, launch the pledge on the closed loop of the medical equipment. Phillips will fully close the loop on all large medical equipment. By closing the loop means that we will actively pursue the trade-in equipment, such as an MRI and CT and cardiovascular systems. And we will take full control to ensure all trade-in materials are repurposed in a responsible way. Taking responsibility for the equipment we put on the market in this way also increase our credibility and also offer a new touch point with customers. As for 25 on sales from circular product and service and solutions, and 25% of our revenue from the circular propositions by 25. Let's discuss how do we make happen. So one is the innovative business models, and such as an offering customer access and services to rather than ownership of product. Not only make it easier to engage and retain a customer, but also they also open up new opportunities for growth and cost savings and reduce the resource risk and facilitate a smart asset management. Actually, in Japan, we see the opportunity for the people use and opportunities in Japan as well, even for big medical devices such as MRI. As for hardware, also the refurbished medical products, the existing examples on the circular economy product and already delivering increased social and economic values. So its volumes keep growing. And over 20 years, even Japan, and 10% of MRI and 15% of ultrasounds are the refurbished product, so-called the Diamond Select. And software, it is a key driver of resource-efficient value creations, enable us to deliver the better services and outcomes, less drains on material resources. Telehealth offerings can, for example, lead to 40 times and 70 times of decrease in carbon emissions. In Japan also, we deploy these technologies aggressively with third parties. Many of the software solutions used need the dedicated hardware. For instance, Lumify is the name of the product of ultrasound with React port ultrasound connect to commercially available regular tablets. This means we do not need any more a separate dedicated patient monitor, specifically for the ultrasound device. And customer service, also a service is increasingly carried out remotely and also using AI, support productive maintenance. So both help prolong lifetimes and increase the utilizations and reduce environmental impact. Digitalization is also one of the mega trends in our world at the moment, and also need for environmentally responsible healthcare. But look at the right-hand side, that digital society require the huge electricity. 14% of the greenhouse gas emissions go to the ICT by 2040 as predicted, and also 8% of electricity will be consumed by data center in 2030. And 800 terawatt hour per year, electric power is consumed just for the transport of data globally. How to limit the climate impact of an increasingly data-hungry world? One of the answers must be shifting from on-premises to the cloud. That is the trend. On left-hand side, the Amazon Web Services calculated 84% less power used with cloud providers versus on-premises. And efficiency in terms of server utilizations, and 65% in cloud and 15% is on-premises. That could be the way of digitalizations. So finally, and this slide gives you the overview of our offerings that will help hospitals, clinics become more sustainable to reduce the CO2 emissions and reduce the waste, providing data solutions that increase in overall efficiency of running hospitals, resulting in less need for the material supplies and traveling. So telehealth solutions that implement the remote installations for the and also the trainings and patient monitorings remotely, and also the telemedicines. And cloud-based software also add the capability and function to the already installed base medical devices in the field, and smart digital solutions also reduce the hardwares, as I already described the Lumify and ultrasound case. So we increased any data access and make more efficient all process and hardware while reducing CO2 footprint as well as reducing waste. That's all my presentations, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aizana, and great to see, and I think it's a great example also to see how circular economy is not only about waste or about materials, but it's about a total solution. So thank you very much. And please stay with us for also the Q&A session later on. I would like to remind the audience also, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your toolbar. And if you want to use interpretation for listeners in Japan, you can use the interpretation icon on the bottom. So thank you very much. And I would like to introduce our next speaker, which is Mr. Markus Reichling, General Manager Circular Economy of Panasonic EU. Mr. Reichling, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving me also the opportunity to present shortly today about Panasonic's circular economy activities. I will also share the screen for my presentation, and I hope that you can see it now already.
I don't see it yet.
Okay, sorry.
It starts, yes, it's all fine.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So let me explain about Panasonic's activities on circular economy and our approach. Please allow me to spend a few words on Panasonic. Of course, I think you have heard about Panasonic as a big corporation already. We are one of the largest electronic product manufacturers in the world. And just on this slide, you can see roughly the different shares of our business operations. So we are looking at connected solutions, life solutions with lighting, energy systems. Probably many know us through the consumer electronics business, which is part of our appliances, but we're also very active in the automotive area, as well as industrial solutions. So just to give you an idea that Panasonic is a very big corporation, worldwide. You see some figures on the top right here on this page. Of course, today, main topic is about circular economy. And with this page, I would like to introduce to you our circular economy concept. So you can see easily the, let's say, linear path, which is familiar probably for all of you with a historical way of doing business. Nevertheless, we try to create these circles really in our entire operations, focusing on two areas, the creation of circular economy business, and on the right-hand side as well, the evolution of recycling-oriented manufacturing. And we want to maximize the customer value through this various cycles, looking on the business side for sharing platforms, product as a service, repair, maintenance, refurbishment. I think all the things that you have heard already today in the introduction part as well. And on the other side, of course, last but not least, recycling, if any other extension of product and material usage is not possible anymore. What does that mean for our real activities and trying to implement that into our business? So we are looking at three areas. One is the cycle of products, the cycle of parts, and the cycle of materials. As you can see here in this red frames, basically how we look at this different CE, circular economy business opportunities, and how we want to bring that to make that to customer value, and to make sure that we can do successful business in the long-term perspective, also in circular ways. So offering customer values through services, through leasing, for instance, without handing over the product in the ownership to the customer. Resales of refurbished products, of course, is also important. Regarding the parts supplies, of course, we have to make sure that this is all suitable for dismantling, that we develop also reuse production technologies and to get that successfully implemented. And regards to the material development, it's not only just looking at recycling material, but it's also looking on developing new sustainable materials that are circular from the very beginning. So utilizing new materials that really utilize some kind of waste that was considered to be not to be used anymore, but we bring that back to new materials and utilize it for our products. This is just some basic ideas of Panasonic. And of course, I think you're more interested, what does it mean in practical operations? So I listed here a couple of examples for our circular economy activities. So for sharing services, for instance, we implemented a trial business to study how to operate and manage an IoT-linked electrically assisted bicycle service. So offering bicycle parking areas where users can just pick up the bicycle through appropriate IT tools. It's very easy to handle that. And it's I think, very easy example to understand sharing service. Product as a service, for instance, we are operating and running already now in Japan as a kind of food refrigeration. So we are a big seller of refrigeration equipment, but we want to change it in the way that stores or retailers can buy cooling as a service, but not necessarily buying the refrigeration stores. And so when this remains in our ownership, we can take it back, we can refurbish and give it to different stores again for probably lower price if they use a not the up-to-date model anymore, but it's possible to really use it in an effective way, the materials, the products for much longer in a more effective and hopefully also more successful way from an economical point of view. Remanufacturing is also part of our consideration. So when we produce, for instance, home appliances like rice cookers, as an example, and we see some failures in production, why not using it in a different way and make it kind of revalue business? So you can see here, how can we, maybe from a pot create a designful lamp as an example. And this is something that we want to consider. How can we use it in a different way? I think this is a very easy example for showing how remanufacturing can be successfully done. Of course, it's not yet a big business, and that's not the main intention, but never give up any activity and any idea to utilize the products and materials in the best way. Recycling-oriented manufacturing is established at Panasonic for many, many years already. We are very engaged in recycling technologies. We run our own recycling operation and factories, especially in Asia. And of course, this is something we will definitely continue to make sure that at the very end of the material usage, it's not lost, but used again and put into new production and products then. And finally, sustainable materials. As I mentioned briefly before, we are working on new materials, getting rid of petroleum-based or oil-based plastics and using rather some kind of food waste or wood waste to develop composite plastic materials that are cellulose fiber based and then included into new products to reduce the virgin plastic amount and also do it in a way that we can utilize waste really as a proper material for the future. This is still in development to make it a real biodegradable plastic at the very end, but we are progressing to that quickly, and we have started using a kind of pre-material version already in products now. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. So I think we are not that structured and advanced compared to Phillips, who are much longer in the circular economy business as we are. But we have started last year a big global circular economy project to really make sure that all Panasonic organizations globally really adapt and understand this business thinking of circular economy, and we want to change and to prove our business, so showing that linear business is successful, but circular economy can be as successful as we did our business in the past. So it's really possible to change it. And this project, as a global project, is driven from European side as a key driver for circular economy, and we're trying to really identify the business opportunities and implement a lot of cases to just show and prove it's possible. We can do it in Japan, in Europe, and elsewhere in the world. And through that, I think we can manage to enhance the awareness and understanding of circular economy as an important approach to help reducing the two key environmental challenges, which is, of course, global warming and the depletion of natural resources. this completes my presentation. Thank you so much. And of course, I'm also happy to respond on questions separately then. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Reichling. And I would like to hand over to my, let's say, colleague of the organizing team, Jackie, to take over to do a short panel discussion or Q&A.
Yes, thank you so much. And for everybody listening, if you have any questions for the Q&A, please do use the Q&A box below and we'll try as best we can to answer. But first, I'd love to start with Ms. Aizawa-san. You mentioned about 25% of your revenue is going to be circular in the future. So it must be very challenging. It's quite an ambitious target for you. What are some of the biggest challenges that you foresee that you're going to be facing?
Okay, if you look at, thank you for the questions. And if you look at the market, also customer behavior change and mindset is also another key to change it, because the most of the healthcare provider, because Japanese medical law enacted back in 1941, the law forced the medical provider to own all facility by themselves. But now they need to change, or owner or manager of the medical providers, such as hospitals and clinic owners, need to change their mindset to change, just own the capital equipment, then use it, rather than versus the purchase service or product as a services or an outcome as a services. Also, there's a trend for us, but that kind of idea is quite new for owner of a hospital, for instance, at the moment still. So big challenge is the moment is to change the mindset of healthcare society. That is
yes, I think this is a common challenge everywhere in the world, this mindset shift that everybody needs to make. Maybe Markus, that's something that you could help share, is that what have you seen both from more of a global perspective, maybe some of the best case examples from the European side, but also knowing that you work in Japan, what are some of the best examples that you think will help to succeed for the circular economy?
Well, I hope you can hear me. I think learning from each other is most important. And all the examples that were shown today and that you can easily find also in the internet are worthwhile to be studied in detail, to learn from that. And if everybody is keen on thinking about how we can adopt that into our business, I think this would be a key success factor for future business development. And I really think that the regions can learn from each other. So Europe from Japan, Japan from Europe, and from other regions in the world as well. Taking over these ideas. Anything on sharing on product as a service is worthwhile to be checked. Can we do it as well? And I'm really believing we can. It's not easy, but we should try.
Yes, absolutely. Hitoshi, maybe on that point as well, do you see that there's a trend also in Japan that people are starting to be more receptive and are starting to move fast? What do you see is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, particularly for the healthcare arena. So one of the shift must be focused on diagnostics and treatment to healthy life and preventions, and also the shifting to the home care. So that would be also the good opportunity for us to implement the circular economy and exit from the legacy policy to the new policies. Of course, we need to get support in terms of deregulations or supplement or reimbursement system and so on. But that would be the trend and also the big waves we are thinking at the moment in terms of facilitating the circular economy as well.
I'm sure that we could discuss a lot more together, but I think we're on a very tight schedule today. So maybe I'll invite all of the panelists and all of the attendees as well to post any of your questions in the Q&A box, and we can all jump in there and answer the questions. So thank you so much for your time. I will pass it back to Ruben.
Thanks a lot, Jackie, and of course, Mr. Aizawa and Mr. Reichling also for sharing your insights. We could chat for hours. I'm sure then time is always very short, but we have a very nice video also to show with you. We would like to show a short introduction video we made on circular manufacturing for you to enjoy, and as a quick intermezzo.
The growing demand for electronics, machinery, automotive industry, electric transport, aerospace, and sustainable energy technologies is responsible for an increasing use of raw materials. The extraction and production of these resources cause environmental problems and other sustainability issues, while at the same time we observe a growing waste stream for those same products. Circular strategies have proven their potential to make the shift to a more climate-friendly value chain for the manufacturing industry, and best practices can be found all around the world. Circular design is key in changing the manufacturing value chain, and this is why some companies choose conflict-free and fair trade materials or create long-lasting products that can easily be repaired and upgraded. New business models emerge and propose services such as bicycle subscriptions, pay-per-use elevators, or even lease of office furniture. Remanufacturing is also an option, and it is becoming attractive for complex products such as gearboxes, ICT, vehicles, and electronic components. This also offers financial benefits for clients, thanks to robotization and process optimization. Other creative ideas.
So maybe you've already seen a bit of them in the video. For the next session, we'll be going to our next speakers. Two companies. Great to welcome both Bugaboo and the Earth Company. And we'll start with a presentation of Aernout Dijkstra-Hellinga, who is Senior Lead Designer and VP Sustainability at Bugaboo. Aernout, may I invite you to take the digital floor and show your presentation?
Yes, thanks, Ruben. If you want to see my face, I cannot start the video myself because the host stopped it, so maybe somebody can start my video. At least I will start sharing my screen. So you can see the presentation. Yep.
Yeah, 2 seconds, Aernout. It's popping up now. There you go.
Yeah, you see it?
We see it, yes.
Okay.
Are you able to turn on your own video so we can see your face?
Maybe I have to go back, start my video. Yes.
Perfect.
Perfect.
All set? All wheels in motion?
All wheels in motion. There you go.
Good. Let me tell you a little bit about Bugaboo and then what we try to do to make our products long-lasting and fit in circular business models from design all the way up to the end of life. So Bugaboo, we consider ourselves as one of the more innovative and leading brands in the parental industry. We are known for our really long-lasting products, best engineered, superior quality, and of course we try to offer the best comfort for parent and child. We're a Dutch company, started in 1999, so a little bit more than 20 years old. And we try to make our products innovative, long-lasting, and with a heart for the future generations. You might know us from the strollers. We also just expanded in the sleeping area with kind of a very quick fold and unfold pop-up bed, and we also sell car seats. But our focus is on parents and their young children. This year we started thinking even more serious about sustainability in a wider perspective. We call this program ESG, so environmental, social, and corporate governance. And we stated this internal ambition: we want to be the undisputed sustainability leader in the juvenile category. So that's quite a statement, I think. But we feel that it's our responsibility because, of course, we sell our products to parents, and the future generation is in that. So it makes perfect sense to think about the future generations as well. And we also feel that it's our duty as innovation leader to lead us in this area as well. So some of the ambitions that we formulated this year and really working on is we want to meet the Paris Agreement. So we're we will tie into this sustainability, the scientific based targets initiative. So really measuring our greenhouse gases and trying to reduce it globally for our organizations. And then you see that most of the impact is really in our products. It's about 90 to 95% of the greenhouse gas emissions is in our products. So we said we should lower our CO2 footprint of our products with at least 40% in the next coming years. And you can imagine that it's quite something to change almost half of your CO2 footprint with your products. But I think definitely circular business models can play a big part in reducing the footprint per use per product. We are already known for our long-lasting products. We are achieving well above industry standards. Our products are fairly easy to upgrade for users. We always think about backwards compatibility when we introduce new models. It's quite easy to repair. You can buy a lot of service sets online, and it's very easy to maintain and to keep our strollers rolling. That's really something that we would like to see. But like I said, to meet these targets, we should really scale up also our new business model. So this is a very interesting new direction for us. We already experimented with leasing a few years ago, but we're now starting up in several countries, starting to think about leasing, but also about refurbishment, taking back our products, remanufacture them where possible. And for us as a designer, this gives really good insight on how should you design your products in a way that you can actually remanufacture them. So to give you some examples, our new design language included a lot of more automotive styling, more plastic, more fluent lines, but sometimes that can give, when you want to remanufacture those, you have to replace all these plastic parts because they wear and tear more easily. So we're thinking about how to optimize our products also in that sense. We just did an EcoVadis assessment and we got silver, and our goal is to get gold for the next year. So also there we do see recognition from some industry standards, but we want to perform even better. And this is our Bugaboo Ant, a very small travel stroller, which got a Green Innovation Award. I can tell you a lot of things about this product because I worked for a few years on it. Also why it's so good from an innovation and sustainability point of view. But basically this stroller can really be taken apart. It doesn't use any rivets anymore. It's all screwed together. All the materials can be separated. And we did a lot of things just with the end of life already in mind, while still having this product last for about 10 years of heavy use. So I was also asked to tell you a little bit, very short, about the challenges we see as a company, but also maybe as a designer. Well, one of the things is, of course, it's such an complex situation. So you have to involve the whole production chain. We produce mostly in China. So we really try to involve also our key suppliers there in making the more sustainable choices in materials, but also in the ways we produce it. We do see now, for instance, if you choose for more environmentally friendly materials, not oil-based, but more eco-based, that it will cost a bit of extra in your cost price. So how to absorb or earn back these things, these costs, because it's still debatable if people want to spend more money for a more sustainable product. I think that's still not the case for the most people. But also where to find the right materials. So we do see a lot of development happening in Europe, but we produce in Asia. So we did an LCA, for instance, where we said, okay, we can use this more eco-friendly plastic and we can actually ship it to Asia, to our factories. And then we're still, from an eco perspective, we're still better off than producing it in China. But it doesn't make sense for me just to have these containers shipped to China with the materials. and how to scale up the different business models. So we have some pilots here and there, but we see that we are more a manufacturing company, still based more on a linear way of working. And of course, if you do this leasing or refurbishment, it's a total different ballgame. So you need to have different partners that work with you to accommodate these business models. One of the biggest challenges, I think, with consumer products is how do you get these products back? Because our strollers are sold through second-hand, third-hand, or giving to relatives and friends. And then at a certain period, you lose track of where the strollers are. So if you want to do something with the still valuable parts or materials, how do you get them back? Also, our knowledge of how to make it best for recycling end of life is still limited, I think. We try our best. For instance, we try to make every part recognizable, what kind of material it is. We don't make the internal parts black, so it's easy for recycling. We try to think about having different densities, so you can use that better in recycling. Of course, the parts are of different materials, can be separated easily. But for instance, the fabrics, which is a huge part of our strollers, is very difficult to recycle because of the density and the strength of our fabrics. And the machines currently used in the fabric recycling industry are not capable to recycle our fabrics. So we're still searching for things like that. Also cooperating with universities to think about solutions for that. And like I mentioned before a little bit, sorry?
We need to wrap up in a bit to keep some time also for you with discussion in the panel.
Yeah,
if you could
this is my last remark. So how to make our products more suitable for circular business models. So we still have to learn by getting these products back and see what happens and where it damages and where it wears. And in the design phase, we can make big changes to make it more suitable. So I think that's a very briefly, something that I like to share with you about what we do at Bugaboo for circularity and the environment.
Some great examples, and congratulations on these designs. They look wonderful, and of course they're also very sustainable. So I think that's of course the best way to approach consumers, that everybody wants that product that's even more sustainable. So please stay with us for the Q&A with Jackie. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Tomo Hamakawa, Managing Director and co-founder of Earth Company. Please.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, everyone. My name is Tomo Hamakawa. I'm based in Bali, Indonesia, originally from Japan. Very nice to be here today. And I'm at our Eco Hotel based in Ubud. This is actually not a virtual background. A lot of people ask that, but it's actually a real background I have here. So let me turn on my presentation. Can you guys see okay? Yep. Okay, great. Awesome. So just maybe a 30-second intro on Earth Company. So we are an organization that started in 2014. We do 4 different things. The main thing is serving as a social accelerator. So we support change makers around the Asia Pacific. We run educational programs on sustainability and circularity. We also do consulting in similar areas. And then the last but not least, we started an Eco Hotel in Bali a couple of years ago to really embody the values and vision that we believe in. We're about a team of 40 members, a lot involved in the hotel side, but the rest are kind of spread across Japan, Taiwan, and Indonesia. We are a organization that works with a lot of different partners, really believing in the idea of collective impact. So in the private sector, in the education sector, a lot of networks, as well as nonprofits and government agencies. The idea of circular economy is really central to our work, and I can talk about a lot of different things, a lot of examples today, but I'll just focus on the things that we've been involved in Japan on the left side, although I really would love to talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing in Indonesia, including supporting this amazing bamboo innovator called Arif Rabik, who wants to create 1,000 bamboo villages, and it's really trying to transform the wood industry in terms of building materials, fuel, food, and textile. And there's a lot of circularity and regenerative properties here at the hotel. But I'll just focus on the Operation Green part, which is very much connected to what we're talking about today. So Operation Green is an initiative that we started about a few years ago. We envisioned this to be one of the many kind of sustainable and circular strategies among many. And the idea is for to help companies and also schools to look inward and to think about how can they make their operations and offices more circular and regenerative. And through that, I think their business models will also change. We believe that this approach has 4 dimensions of impact, including environmental, of course. Also leads to cost reduction, branding, learning, and engagement. So these are, things including switching to renewable energy, conserving water, improving waste management, all these different things that offices can do. We have a list of about 100 things that any office can do to make them more circular. And we don't do this alone. We actually involve a lot of different partners. The first kinds of partners is what we call implementation partners, where basically our clients, where we actually implement a lot of these sustainability measures. In terms of companies, we've been working with this company called Toraya, which is about a 500-year-old Japanese traditional confectionery company. We're also working with a renewable energy company called Shizen Energy that want to actually make their offices as renewable as what they sell, the renewable energy that they sell. These are technical partners. We partner with renewable energy providers. We partner with companies that make eco products and equipment, as well as service providers, app developers, and campaigns to really create this kind of collective to push companies along the sustainability transformations. Within the technical partners, a few that are related to manufacturing related areas. One is Recotech. I'll mention in more detail in the next slides. Dijkstra-Hellinga is a really great company that produces water faucets that actually can reduce up to 90% of water consumption. So simply by switching the faucet, the piping, you can actually save that much. Local food recycling. This is a compost bag that consumers can use in their household level. This is becoming quite popular in Japan. Kayu Package is a company that's trying to replace plastic packaging. I think the one interesting example from Recotech is this idea of the material pool system. It's a very good example of how different partners are involved to basically collect and also compress, repurpose, and reuse plastic waste. And so Recotech's in the middle of this, and then so we have a big developer called Mitsubishi Estate that's in charge of that's generating the waste. We have Senko, which collects and compresses. We have another company called EnvyPro, which produces the plastic pellets. And then Kao, which is one of the biggest consumer household producers, is using those pellets for new product development. So this is a great example of how...
Just to jump in, may I invite you to wrap up in, let's say, 30 seconds, so we have time for the Q&A session with you and Arno.
Yeah, it's my last slide. So another great example is zero waste certification in co-working and shared offices. It's actually a partnership between an organization called Zero Waste Japan and a co-working space in Nagano. And I think through these, few examples, what I want to emphasize is really about creative partnerships in, for, and through circular economy. And because this whole idea of circular economy is such a challenge, and we need new partnerships in order to be able to realize something that's so fuzzy and vague. So yeah, that's my concluding slide. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much for sharing all these great initiatives. Jackie, may I hand over to you for the panel discussion?
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes, Tomo, I could not agree more. I think that's really part of the reason that we're hosting this session, is to have that sharing and exchange of knowledge between nations and understanding what opportunities there are for collaboration. So definitely agree. Maybe Aernout, we'll start with you. I think one of the questions that I had, because a lot of your drive for circularity also comes from this reduction in CO2. What are some of the best examples that you've seen that you think other places such as Japan can learn from, or maybe even what have you seen also overseas to be able to achieve this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think definitely having access to the service or the utility instead of ownership does provide a huge opportunity to get the products back. And also I saw in some of the collaborations we did on a European level is that the initial investment in the product can be much higher with these new business models. So you can put more value in it because you also retain more value. And this gives a higher quality product, so everybody benefits there. So you can see it in washing machines or headphones, or there are several examples, but I think that really works well.
And do you feel that that mindset is ready for people to change that mindset of ownership to actually more of a sharing economy or other different models?
I think yes. I mean, in the Netherlands, you see it more and more, like this example of swap feeds. It's so common. People are hardly thinking about owning stuff in some of these areas, like the newer generations. They will be much more open to these service systems. Yeah.
Awesome. And Tomo, I mean, we've heard a lot today from people in manufacturing, how circularity is kind of the future. How do you feel that demand from the consumer side in Japan? Do you feel like that's moving in that right direction? What have you seen on the ground there from the people you work with?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely huge demand. I think it's only going to increase from here on. And I think one trigger for that was the pandemic. I think this for the last year and a half, I think humanity has really reflected on how we live, and we shop less, but look for more meaning. We travel less or travel not at all. But then, we're looking for, products and services with stories, with authenticity. And it's not just about volume. It's not about quantity. It's more about quality. So I definitely see that in the Japanese economy, as well as in other geographies as well.
And I'm sure we have to wrap this up because we're very, very tight on the timeline. But maybe one last question, Tomo, for you, given that you've worked with so many different stakeholders, what's one piece of advice you have to foster more collaboration and perhaps more partnership, even internationally, between the Netherlands, between Japan? What is one thing that you've learned that you'd like to share? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think new partnerships, like breaking down boundaries, I think is definitely a new thing in the Japanese corporate sector. And I think that's, as everyone knows, Japanese corporate sector is more conservative. And I think it's the best way is to show examples and say, well, this has already been done in these places. This is already happening in other parts of Japan. And when people say, oh, actually, our competitors are doing this, or, our other areas are doing this, I think it really wakes them up. And that can be a trigger for meaningful change. So showing, creating precedent and showing examples, I think is the best way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Aernout, did you want to just add on any tips for you before we pass back to Ruben?
No, I was answering the questions in the Q&A. Sorry.
Perfect. Then we'll pass it back to Ruben to take us into the next session. Thank you both.
Thank you very much for this nice, short, but very, very nice discussion. Thanks a lot for joining us, and great, Aernout, that you're already responding to the Q&A box. So for the audience, if you have any questions for Tomo or Aernout, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. I would like to welcome our next guest, Michiel Jansson. And Michiel is Program Manager, High-Tech Industry at the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy. Michiel, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Ruben. Thank you.
Welcome to this event.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. It took me a while. I had some ICT problems this morning.
we're glad you're with us, Michiel. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Of course, Michiel, maybe you can briefly share with the audience the role that the ministry or your Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Change Policy plays when it comes to, well, let's say the manufacturing industry and circular economy.
Yes, I can. Well, in the Netherlands, since a few years, we have a national strategy on circular economy. And as part of that, we have 5 implementation programs in several priority areas. One of these priority areas is the manufacturing industry. And the Ministry of Economic Affairs is responsible for developing and implementing this agenda. And we do this in a public-private partnership, as we do most of these things today. This agenda is aimed at the manufacturing industry. Our global challenge of the national strategy is to achieve in 2050 a full reduction in fossil mineral metals and resources. And in 2030, already a 50% reduction. So that's quite a challenge. It's more like an inspirational goal. And with these 5 implementation programs on these 5 priority areas, we try to achieve that. And well, we are responsible for the manufacturing industry part of it. And well, the program is running now a few years. I think we are quite successful today in raising awareness and interest in the parties involved. We're doing well, so we already reached more than 10,000 firms today. But we still have a big challenge on how do we really activate the firms in the industry to make this transition happen. They're already facing a very important other transition as the transition of the digitization, which is still an enormous challenge. And we feel in all ways that this transition is maybe even more complex to implement. And so today we are quite successful in raising awareness and interest, but we're still struggling on how we do really activate these parties to take up and make this transition. And well, we saw a few, at least I saw only a few, but very inspiring examples of Panasonic and Bugaboo, for example. True, we have more in the Netherlands, but the biggest challenge is how do we get more parties so active as they are.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a, yeah, you already mentioned it, public-private collaboration. It's a road we need to take together. I think through those series, we see a lot of companies that say, you know, we also need policies, etc. So maybe you can share with us what does the Dutch government well do to help the best practices to scale up and to bring them any further, or to create, let's say, a fertile ground for us to do the same.
Yes, well, we have this implementation program, which is really a quite comprehensive program. It aims at several decision horizons. So what should we do in the next few months or years? And what should we do in the next 10 or 20 years? For 5 of these areas, we have more short-term activities. That is on 5 so-called moonshot projects, on solar, on wind farms, and a few more. And in this way, we try to activate in these priority areas the main stakeholders to take up this challenge. What we are doing there is we bring parties around the table. We help them in developing plans. We help them also in finding the necessary funding for these plans. And that's the way we proceed and hope that can really make a difference within these 5 moonshot projects. And hopefully they will be the inspiration for others to follow.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I can imagine, you know, that's to spark, of course, the innovations and collaboration in the Netherlands. But of course, the world's big. And through this series, of course, we see that maybe Bugaboo sells their strollers to Japan. So it's also the international collaboration, I think, is key to success, also to, well, create a global circular economy. And what kind of topics do you see, or what are the most important topics for the government to work together with, for example, Japan or other countries?
Well, first of all, we're still learning about how should we do this transition. It's very complex, as I already told you, and as we all know. We see a few challenges. I think learning from each other is quite useful, and well, this is a good practice, and maybe we should continue doing so. And yeah, well, a few things that we face as a next challenge is maybe also good to have discussions on, like, for example, the digitization. We feel more and more that digitization is a very important necessity for making this transition to a circular economy happen. We also have programs on smart industry, digitization of the manufacturing industry, and we are now looking at ways of how can we combine these programs and make sure that this digitization knowledge also can be included in the circular economy approach. Well, this is maybe one topic we can learn from each other. How should we do this? And maybe there are already best practices.
Yeah, I think that really, refers also to the presentation of Phillips and on preventing waste, on designing different on different business models. That would digitalization is a very important part of that, of course. So maybe to wrap up our discussions, what maybe if I could ask you some next steps to take, what do you think? Continue the discussions. Any other suggestions from your side how we can continue the collaboration and keep working together?
Yes, well, I can imagine that it is maybe quite interesting knowing now that Japan is also quite active in this way. That we maybe have a exploratory mission to Japan or maybe into the Netherlands to learn more from each other, what we are doing, what is our policy approach, to learn from firms, from best practices, and see how we can get to next steps in policy making.
So on different levels, business to business, but also government to government, and
absolutely.
Sometimes, of course, we need to interchange the actors, or the quadruple approach, because consumers are also a very important party when it comes to circular economy. Okay, Michiel, any final comments from your side before we wrap up?
No, thank you, Ruben.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for joining us, and well, we look forward to continue our discussion in the next event. And so thanks a lot for joining us on this session, Michiel, and talk to you hopefully in the next session again. So maybe just, I'm afraid we need to wrap up, and Freek, maybe I may invite you also, and to see if, well, from your perspective, you've seen the whole session, if there are any final quotes that you would have that would cover, or well, make the wrap up the sessions of today. Freek.
Thanks, Ruben. No, I have to say it was wonderful and great to hear so many best practices from all the speakers. So thank you so much for that. I think this is really a topic where we need to continue the conversation and exchange best practices from government, from knowledge institutes, and from companies. Now, the Netherlands might not be a major manufacturing country like Japan, but I think the examples we have in the field of circular economy can indeed inspire the world. But together, Japan and the Netherlands can actually make a true impact. And for that, I think in this field, it's not about copyright, it's about the right and the need to copy and to scale up. And as Michiel Jansen said, I'm looking really very much forward, continuing the discussion and hoping for future collaboration between Japan and the Netherlands. And I will keep it with that, considering the time.
Yeah, thank you very much. And maybe for the speakers, may I briefly ask you to turn on the camera and maybe wait for a final group picture. That would be nice also for us to wrap up the session and to thank the audience. Maybe there are still some questions in the Q&A box. And at the audience, I would like to thank you very much for joining us today. I would like to thank all of the speakers, of course, for being with us and sharing their insight. It was great. Very short to have 1 hour, but great to as a discussion started, and I hope it also continues. Also, I would like to thank the whole team of SoNow and Holland Circular Hotspot and the Netherlands Embassy, RBO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, and Papendal, of course, who helped us to prepare and host this session. And also, of course, we would like to invite you for the next session, which is next week, the 6th of July on Tuesday. It's the roundtable that will be hosted from the studio in Papendal. You know where to register. It is within the T1L Tokyo Expo. So looking forward to seeing you hopefully next week. And thank you very much for joining and have a very nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Smile for a photo.
Bye-bye.